Edward Brown, host of The Best of Investing, here to remind you to tune in this week on Saturday at 8 p.m. It's going to be an interesting show. You're not going to want to miss it. That's The Best of Investing on Saturday. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. And that certificate's not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Today's trivia theme, miscellaneous trivia. All right. I want to make a quick mention here before we introduce our guest. Pacific Private Money's got a new fund called the Arrival Fund. It's only open to accredited investors. Limited time only. Right now, they're paying 10%. And you can check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com for more details. Let them know you heard about their fund on the Best of Investing radio show. Now, today we have a special guest, a computer expert. I assume that's how you want me to introduce you, Russell.
Well, computer consultant for sure.
Computer consultant, yes. But I think you're quite the expert. In other words, if you weren't an expert, you probably wouldn't be a consultant. So Russell Jackman. And Russell, what is the name of your company?
It's called Calm Computer Consulting Services because I think there's a psychological component to making people work effectively with computers that has nothing to do with the technical side of it. I think you have to get people to a state mentally where they can accept, how to handle a computer. And I've always said the best thing you can ask your computer consultant starts with the question, how? And the worst question
why
you can ask a computer consultant starts with the word why.
Why?
Yes. How, I can give you an answer. If the computer's capable of doing it, I can show you how to do anything. But I can't tell you why. The answers to why, there's only 2 answers to why. One is a technical answer that is so complicated, you most likely wouldn't understand it in most cases. But the more often answer is because that's the way the programmer designed it. And unless you adapt to the way it's designed, it's not going to do what you want it to. And you can yell at it and scream at it and do whatever you want, but the computer is not going to move forward until you decide to adapt to the way that it is and the way it wants things.
Go ahead.
It reminds me of a story when I was younger. There were these computer adventures. One of them was called Mission Impossible, where you could only enter 2-word commands, right? And so you would have to say, get axe or eat food or whatever. You could only say things in 2 words. And my friends and I were all playing it, and we got to a point where there's this bomb in this room, and you need to defuse it. But just as you start opening the door, there's an earthquake and a bunch of debris falls in front of the door. You can't open the door. And we tried everything. We tried for weeks, every possible combination.
Not just open door.
It didn't work. We tried open door. We had like a crowbar. We tried use crowbar and use shovel and all this other stuff. And we tried back and forth. And then finally I said, has anyone ever tried to type in the word push hard? He said, push hard. What a stupid thing that is. Push hard? No way. That's never going to work. I said, but if we tried typing in push hard?
I
said, no, we haven't. I said, well, let's try it. And we did push hard. And it says the door shakes and shivers. And all of a sudden the debris falls and you're able to get in and defuse the bomb and solve the adventure. And I've used that kind of push hard mentality that if you haven't tried something, you've got to try it to see if it works, and then take very close note of what happens when you push hard and if it works or not. And if you do,
I tried to kick the computer and hit it with a hammer, but those didn't work either. Okay, we're going to go to our.
Again, that's not what the computer wants.
No, the computer doesn't want that.
You have to do it exactly the way the computer wants, even if it sounds stupid. even if it's a dumb idea, even if it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
if you do it so that the computer thinks it makes sense, you're
There you
successful.
go. All right. Here's our first trivia question. And again, Russell, if you know the answer, don't say anything yet. Okay. Which is the highest selling arcade game? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Stay with us. You're listening to the best of investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the best of investing. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman, who is our expert computer consultant. I'll put them all together. All right. Our first trivia question, which is the highest selling arcade game? What do you think,
I'm
Russell?
going to go with Pac-Man.
You are correct. It is Pac-Man. All
Something
right.
like $8 billion, I think. It made like $8 billion.
Like that, yeah.
All in quarters.
So
you think about that in quarters.
Wait, what's that?
$8 billion and all in quarters.
All in quarters, yeah.
How big an amount of metal that
yeah, you definitely would need to push hard on that one to move it. It's so funny because it reminds me of that, not the joke, but I can't remember, some comedian said, if you ever, before dating someone, you should have them be in front of a computer with slow internet access and see how they respond. And that's.
Well, I mean, I started off with I started off working on a Commodore PET at the Lawrence Livermore Labs. They would allow people to have 10 minutes on the computer. And there was a line that went around the building for people because they were so interested in being able to play on a computer for 10 minutes. This is 1975-ish, 76,
Oh, wow.
I think.
Okay,
and my mom would drop me off at Lawrence Livermore Labs. I would wait in line. I would get on the computer for 10 minutes. And I would go to the back of the line, wait in line, and go play for another 10 minutes. And I would be there all day long.
Oh my God. How many people were in line?
Like 30 or 40 people. Like,
yeah, I can see why that would be all day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You just had to sit there and wait. And it was still the 10 minutes that I got on the computer was the greatest experience of my life. To be able to sit there and play on it was so great. And then my mom took me to what was called the Marin Computer Center, which was in Terra Linda. And I could rent Ataris and Apple computers for $5 an hour. And, you know, I would always insist that I go there and play on the computer and stuff. And then in 81, I bought my first computer, which was an Atari 800. And I've been working with computers ever since. I worked in a small computer repair place.
I still remember when AOL came out and you had to pay like $1 a minute, I think it was, to.
Oh, I go back to the acoustic modems. You don't even know what those were. The acoustic modems, you'll see those in old James Bond films where you actually took the phone receiver that you would talk to and you would put it onto some suction cups.
Yeah.
The suction cups would it would actually make the ee-ah sound.
Yeah.
And the phone would then transmit it that way. Problem was, if you made any noise near the acoustic modem, you'd get knocked offline. So
I remember back in 1981, I went to there were a couple of guys who started their own stock brokerage firm. They came from Charles Schwab and they just decided to start a little firm. And they said, Edward, you know, I was like their 19th customer because they had just started. And they said, Edward, you got to see this thing. And I don't remember what they called it at the time, but it was this big machine. They said, get this, we're going to put this piece of paper on a roller and we're going to have this thing, you know, this little arm goes across it. And it'll take 30 minutes, but in New York, they're going to see exactly what this one piece of paper looks like.
And really fax.
Like basically, it was a fax machine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, now you can't even find anyone that wants to use such an old and now antiquated piece of equipment.
I know. It's funny. I still every once in a while get someone who says no, we accept our faxes, and it's like, wait a minute, I can't scan an email. I wonder how I'm going to do this.
I know it's because that is like some hospitals and some insurance places still require a fax because it's completely unhackable. You know, there's no way you can hack a fax. You know, there's
you remember
no
the thermal paper?
Oh yeah, thermal paper and 40 column stuff and dot matrix printers and near letter quality and
Well, I remember in 1984, my old business associate had this huge machine, and he like built it. It would cost him like $10,000 to build just to house well, like that probably included the machine. It was a printer, but it was so loud it had to be in its own console where they could close it. Anyway, so
Right.
that's a little nostalgia
Yeah,
there.
no, that's how far back I go. But then, I've just
Yeah,
stayed with it the entire time
yeah,
so that what I have to learn is incremental and I don't have to learn something new all over again. And so when people say, do you work on Macs? Do you work on PCs? I say I go all the way back to CPM. So the fact is,
hmm,
it's all going to change again to another
yeah,
form eventually. And you've got to be adaptable with computers and understand the operating system that you know and love today isn't necessarily going to be the operating system you will learn to love tomorrow.
And
And
how's AI going to change all that?
yeah, AI is going to change a lot of it by,
Yeah,
making it less interfaceable with your hands and more
yeah, yeah.
interfaceable by saying stuff directly
Yeah,
to the computer. We're
yeah.
going to type less.
Which
Although
for
we're still in
well,
an era
especially
where
for
we're typing a
people.
lot,
Say
and
that?
we're still in an era where we're typing a lot,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and we were supposed to be paperless, and we still print a lot of paper,
Sure. Yeah.
for
Yeah,
all
but I
intents
can
and
imagine
purposes.
like people who've got carpal tunnel syndrome, this would be it's well, they already have stuff like you can talk into some kind of a microphone that types it
Right,
out
and
for you.
voice recognition gets better and better as AI gets stronger and stronger,
Yeah. I
and
just wonder how you do like on spreadsheets though. I wonder, go to cell. That'll
yeah, you
take
just say,
forever.
yeah, in cell A3, put in
Yeah.
$850 and
Yeah.
put in
That,
formula for, yeah.
that would kind of drive you crazy. Okay, and when we come, we're going to ask another trivia question. When we come back, let's start getting into the information that we think the audience would like to hear about computers. All right.
Sure.
Second trivia question: which Olympics was boycotted by 65 countries? All right, which Olympics was boycotted by 65 countries? All right, call 888-912-1190. First caller with correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. Best of Investing will be right back. Also want to make a mention here for Mountain Mike's Pizza in San Rafael. Pizza the way it ought to be. Check them out, Mountain Mike's Pizza, sanrafael.com.
And Nevada.
Yeah, yes, but the one in San Rafael is the best. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, computer consultant Russell Jackman. And our second trivia question: which Olympics was boycotted by 65 countries?
1980.
Yes, that's
And
right.
the interesting side note to that is
Yeah,
that there was a guy who was going to be a discus thrower who was going to compete for the United States Olympic team, but he couldn't go because he wasn't able to compete, because they
the
boycotted it.
boycott. Yeah.
And that man was named Kerry Atkinson, who wound up being Kerry Von Erich, who's the subject of the Iron Claw movie.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
and if
Okay, I
you
didn't
haven't seen
know
that
that.
movie yet, I really think you should.
Yeah, that's right. Iron Claw. I remember you told me that.
Yes. So
Yeah, I remember how sad I was because back then the Olympics were really like right after 72 and 76 and all that. It was awesome, and then 80 came, and then suddenly it was like we're boycotting it. And I felt so bad for all the Olympians, and then in 84. Yeah, we went, but then Russia didn't, and I'm not sure who else didn't go besides
no, but
Russia.
we
But
won, and everybody, the United States loved it. It was
yeah,
in LA.
yeah, but it had felt a little
One of the
tainted
money
though.
making Olympics in the history of the Olympics.
Wait,
Where
what's that about the history?
84 Olympics is also
Yeah.
known in history as one of the few money making Olympics where the city that hosted it made more money than they spent on the
No, that was
Olympics.
Los Angeles. No, it wasn't. It was Los Angeles
Yeah,
that did that one.
LA made
Yeah, yeah,
money
yeah.
where so many other
Really?
cities
I didn't know that.
have
I
have
didn't.
have totally bled out the nose when they
Yeah, like Beijing, they built that bean, the kidney
yeah,
bean looking
and in
thing.
Athens like totally bankrupted the city when they had the Olympics there, and they have lots of stuff that's still in Athens. When I was there in the early 2000s, it's totally falling apart, because
Well, I
it's
thought you meant from in 1896, but no, I know.
well,
I know.
that too, but it's from the
They're
2000.
going way back,
Anyway,
76 or so. Yeah. Okay.
but people
Computers.
really need to know, to quote another famous wrestler, so what the people need to know is that in October, Windows 10 no longer is going to be supported. Now, there's a big asterisk that you can, as a business, extend Windows 10's life by another year if you pay $30 per machine. So, but eventually, and then the next year it's going to be like $100 a machine, and then like $200 a machine. So you're really only going to probably get another year worth of life out of your machine, even if you decide to extend it past October.
So I'm trying to remember now. Was Windows 11 like not a very good system?
No, it's the problem is Windows 10 is too good, and people really like it. And even I'm still using Windows 10. I haven't moved to Windows 11. Unfortunately, my machine, which was a top of the line machine about 7 or 8 years ago, I mean, really top of the line, and still runs great and runs all sorts of programs fantastic, has a chipset that's too old and is not supported by Windows 11. So
see, and you know what? It just reminds me. It's like they could make light bulbs last 150 years, but they don't, because light bulb companies just wouldn't make any money. They'd make money the first year, and that's it. And I look at good old Bill Gates.
Give it more. That's it's not necessarily all about that, because you don't count on your light bulb to handle your bank transactions.
No. But just the idea that Windows 10, right? They just go. They've got to do something in order to make money for the future. So what are they doing? They're going.
That's not it.
Okay.
That's not it. Think of this. Think of like, those old timey pirate chests with the old lock, the old brass lock on it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if you were trying to like keep all your money in an old pirate chest with a giant brass lock on it. Okay. That's what you're doing when you're working with Windows 10 after October, because the ability to secure your computer is you're using some ancient form of security that is not kept up to date. And even though cosmetically you look at your computer and you go, okay, that looks fine to me. The problem is today's computers are able, with their power and their strength and with AI, to be able to circumvent the security of 10 years ago.
So it's really all the bad guys' fault. That's why they have to do all this.
Well, it's true. Windows 10 is 12 years old, and they figured out every possible way that you could hack Windows 10 by now. They've done it. And so the only way to fix it is by moving to Windows 11 and adding in new features of Windows 11 that are higher security.
Do they have Windows 12 yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
A lot of people are kind of on the fence with that.
Fence on that? Okay. Hey, tell you what, we're going to go to our next trivia question here. Now, this one's a little harder. I give you 2 easy ones. All right. What flower works as a natural pest control? It's kind of a tough one. All right. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. One more time, Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman, our specialized computer consultant. Third trivia question: what flower works as a natural pest control?
I'm going to say a Venus flytrap.
It's funny. That's what I would have guessed too. Marigolds. Again, I figured I had to throw one tough one in there.
Flowers are not, that's not my specialty.
That's a whole different animal. Okay, now before we get to computers, I got to give you my silly joke of the week. So a bus filled with politicians on the campaign trail was driving through the countryside one day. The bus driver, caught up in the beautiful scenery, lost control and crashed into a ditch. A farmer living nearby heard the horrible crash and rushed out to discover the wreckage. Finding the politicians, he buried them. The next day, the police came to the farm to question the man, "So you buried all the politicians?" asked the police officer. "Were they all dead?" And the farmer answered, "Well, some of them said they weren't, but you know how politicians lie."
And they
There you go.
definitely were lying there.
That's
In the
right. Exactly. Okay. So Russell, so besides the idea that your suggestion would be to at least pay the $30 when
Yeah, at
in
least get the
October.
security updates, but it's probably time. I've always said pick an Olympics or a presidential election, and by the time that one of them rolls around after you bought your computer, it's probably, if you look at your last, presidential election, if your computer's older than your last presidential election or your last Olympics, then it's
Gotcha.
probably time to replace it.
Every 4 years
Every 4 years is usually a good sign. If for business purposes, maybe you can get 5 or 6 years out of it, but for a lot of people, when you're in like the 10 years on your computer, it's just too old to secure it, to be able to make sure that if you're going to use it for business purposes, then you need to make sure that it's up to date and that it can be secured. And there's just no way to make sure that Windows 10 is going to stay secure as easily as Windows 11 and possibly whenever they introduce Windows 12. Windows 12 is still possibly going to come out this summer, but I don't think it is.
Gotcha. And generally, when do you actually need a real like the hardware part, the computer? Because sometimes they give enough room in the computer to just keep upgrading your RAM.
No, that's the Windows 10. The hardware and all of that stuff is kaput. That's the end of it.
Okay.
So it's because the other thing too. This is another part of what Microsoft is about, is that they want to get rid of all these extra operating systems. They don't want people on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and Windows 11. That's hard for them to support and to have to take questions on people asking about, why does this work? Why doesn't this work? They want people all on one operating system so that they can, focus on that instead of having to fix Windows 10, fix Windows 7, fix Windows XP, and all that stuff. They just want.
I keep looking at my keyboard and trying to find the any key, because that's press any key to enter. And
I've seen that they now have a keyboard that has a Control Alt Delete key as one key, which is my tagline, where I say I take over where Control Alt Delete leaves off. So instead of having to press 3 keys, you just press one key. I thought that was clever.
So let's plug you quite a bit here. So how do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by
hourly? And I do work by a project. If people say, hey, I need these computers all done in an office and so forth. I don't set up servers, but I do a lot of cloud work and setting people up with clouding stuff and help them sync stuff from their phones to their computers. And I do work in a lot of mixed offices where they have one Mac and one PC, and they need to share stuff between the two of them, or they have some iPhones and some Android phones. They need to sync those together, because that's a big thing. The biggest thing about computers, I think, in the last 5 to 10 years is that we're getting away from your information being all placed on one system, where you have to be in the office to be united with your data. And nowadays you can, with clouding and all that stuff, your computer isn't all that important. What's important is where your data is and where your data is stored and how you can access it. So in other words, you could be at, a friend's house and go on to OneDrive online and edit documents at a friend's house or at a library or at a coffee shop or wherever you're at, on your phone or on a tablet. You don't have to carry. It used to be all your computer files were on one computer at the office. And if you couldn't get into the office and onto that computer physically, you didn't have access to your information.
Yeah, but what about stuff like Dropbox?
Yeah, Dropbox has changed all that. OneDrive has changed all that. Box has changed all that. Apple Drive has changed all that. Google Drive has changed all that. People can use those systems to free themselves of physically being chained to one computer. Yeah. But there's still a lot of people who don't do that, or are too afraid, or don't trust the cloud. I do
Also,
see.
sometimes it's hard to go, using your phone instead of the computer because sometimes there's just stuff you can't quite do, or it seems like you can't quite do on a
It's
phone.
true. Sometimes the phone apps aren't as thorough as, say, like Word that you use on your desktop. But if you're in a
Yeah.
situation where you have to get a document out and you're on a plane flight, you're in the waiting room, of the plane for waiting for you're on deck to be called.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes you can
being
print
able to
stuff out from your phone, which is
yeah,
pretty
exactly.
cool.
You can filling it out
Yeah.
on your phone is better than not being able to do anything at all. And phones are getting more and more and more sophisticated. And more things are being tailored so that they can work on a phone and be phone friendly than
I
it
think
is.
what they're going to do is they're going to come out with a phone or a computer, whatever, that just kind of opens up it's sort of like, when you watch Tony Stark and in the
Yeah.
Iron
Or
Man stuff, right?
George Jetson and his car. Remember when he lands at work,
Oh yeah,
he
it just
presses the
folds up
button
in
and
a
his car
case.
folds
Yeah.
into a briefcase completely.
Yeah. All right, audience, stay with us. No trivia question now, but the best of investing will be right back with some closing comments and more information from Russell. Welcome back to the best of investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. No trivia question, but let's talk about some antivirus stuff.
Yeah, it's very important for people to understand that keeping their computers safe, and this is, if you're going to listen to any part of this podcast, this is probably the most important part, is that you never give, like, for instance, I've seen a lot of people get fake virus messages on their computer. And it makes a horrible noise, and they have this audio thing saying your computer is infected and all that stuff. Understand, first of all, how your virus system works, so that if you get a message, if you have McAfee, for instance, and you get a message from Norton on the web telling you that you have a virus, don't call the number, okay? And the FBI and Microsoft and Apple and all of that, they don't tell you to call them. They don't want you to call them. They don't have the ability to handle everybody's phone calls. So when you get a message on your screen saying you've been infected with a virus, call this Microsoft partner right away. And of course, then it's a guy that's got a thick Pakistani, or Indian or foreign.
What do you do? What do you do if you accidentally, like without thinking, download something that you thought was real, and then up pops up something that is like you can't Control Alt Delete or turn off your computer?
No, you should always restart your computer. That usually is the first thing. Second thing you can do is and you should always have an alternative browser on your system. So, like, let's say you have Chrome. Well, if Chrome is infected, you could probably go into Edge and then find a way to get an antivirus, patch or whatever to fix it. You can always ask, Google or something like that, saying, I'm getting this type of error message or this kind of virus warning. Is it real? And then most of the time you'll find out it's a hoax, and they'll tell you how to fix it. Or, but the main thing that you don't do is you don't call the number and you don't download something. If you have to, there's a way, at least with Windows, to boot into safe mode and disable all your background programs from startups. You also can check your browser's extensions, because a lot of times what you download and messes up your computer is actually an extension in your browser. And if you go to your extension management and get rid of the rogue extension and then do a virus scan, you'll usually be able to eliminate most of the problems that occur.
I'm going to think that most people, because they're I don't know how many people are sophisticated enough to do that. They just call you, and you can you can do a lot of the stuff remotely, right? You can just log into their computer.
I can tell a virus computer when I walk into a room. You can give me 50 computers that are all, not one of them has a virus on it. I could walk over and tell you which one it has. I can feel a virus in the air. So yes, that's one skill I have.
All right. So, how do people get a hold of you if they want to hire you to assist with their computer, either their computer viruses or setting up computers or any kind of computer issues? How would they get?
Well, I have a Facebook page. Sorry, someone's maybe calling right away for some computer help. But I have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/calmputer consult. That's CONSULT, and no plural. And then I also can be reached by phone 415-892-2617 or my email, which is calmputerconsult@AOL.com. I know AOL. That's
okay. Sometimes that's the only one that works
for like 25 years, so it's
it's hard for me to get rid of it too. Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. So I'm starting meetings at my house for people with OCD. I don't have it. I'm just hoping they'll take one look and just start cleaning my house. And my therapist says I have a preoccupation with revenge. We'll see about that. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best.
Adios.
So long.